So it's been 11 games for the Kansas City Chiefs this season, and they have already set a few of their own personal records in this Patrick Mahomes era. First off, they have as many or more losses in a season than they ever have in a season with Patrick Mahomes, with 4 this season. That's double what they had last year. It's as many as they had the year before. And turnover-wise, they have more turnovers than they ever had with Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback. There is a real reason to say that the Kansas City Chiefs have regressed as a team this season. Right now, they're 18th in the NFL in terms of their running game, and the turnovers that they have on the offensive side of the ball are second worst in the NFL. And unless you've been living under a rock, everybody knows that the cover 2 defense that the Kansas City Chiefs have been played, or I guess been going against this season for a majority of this season, has had its effect on this Kansas City Chiefs team. However, with that being said, the Kansas City Chiefs still have one of, if not the most talented teams in the NFL, and they should still be the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year, and at the very, very least should be the favorite to win the AFC Championship this year for the 3rd straight time. Now, I will acknowledge that this cover 2 defense that they have gone against for a majority of the season has had its, somewhat effectiveness in terms of slowing down the Kansas City Chiefs this year. I'm not going to deny that that is true. But with that being said, I don't necessarily know if you really want to play cover 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs all day, every day. Because really all it does for the Kansas City Chiefs is deny the inevitable of a touchdown, or at least a field goal. The Kansas City Chiefs right now are averaging about 6 yards per play, which, yes, that's not up to the same standard that they have been before, but it still is a number where if you play 2 plays, you're basically getting a first down on average. That is still pretty good. That's still very, very good in today's NFL. They have the most first downs in the NFL, which just goes to prove that they are, on average, getting a first down every 2 plays. They average the most yards per drive. They average the most plays per drive, 4th most points per drive. Right now, they're 4th in total yards, 12th in points scored, and 11th in yards per rush. So yes, even though they're 18th in terms of just running yards, they're 11th in yards per rush. And that's after they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire back from injury. And that's after they really didn't have another running back outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, they were relying on Jerick McKinnon for a little bit there. They were relying on guys who just aren't really great running backs. But now that they have Clyde Edwards-Helaire back, and now that he's playing at an incredible pace, I think he's averaging, or at least their rushing group is averaging over 100 yards per game in their last 4 games. And the last thing I'm going to say about this cover 2 defense that apparently in Nick Wright's standing is breaking Patrick Mahomes' brain and breaking the Kansas City Chiefs offense. You need to realize that cover 2 defense is pretty simple, not only in the way that you play it on the defensive side of the ball, but in terms of how you play against it on the offensive side of the ball. It's pretty simple, and once the Kansas City Chiefs figure that out, which Andy Reid is one of the best offensive coaches in NFL history, I think Patrick Mahomes is, in my lifetime, the most talented quarterback I've seen outside of maybe Aaron Rodgers. This team is going to learn how to play cover 2 defense, or play against cover 2 defense and beat cover 2 defense. I'm not worried about that at all. And not only are they going to figure out how to beat it, their incredible stats that they have this year, like I already said, 4th in yards, 12th in points, 11th in yards per rush, those numbers are going to be even better. The numbers that they don't do well on, like, they're 18th in rushing yards and they're 2nd worst in turnovers, those numbers are going to get even better. So statistically, yes, this team has regressed a little bit to the mean, but once they figure it out after their bye week, those numbers are going to look incredible. Now, the one side of the ball that needs to be highlighted for the Kansas City Chiefs is how they have stepped up in the past 4 weeks in the absence of Kansas City being able to put up gaudy numbers on the offensive side of the ball. Over the past 4 games, the Chiefs have held quarterbacks Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Jordan Love, and Dak Prescott to a combined 47 points over a 4-week stretch. Now, yes, the quarterbacks Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, Jordan Love, and Dak Prescott are all guys who, outside of Dak Prescott, I don't think are necessarily great quarterbacks, at least in Daniel Jones and Jordan Love's point. Not great quarterbacks right now. I think Derek Carr is terrible, but that's another story for another day. I would rather have this defense play exceptional against average opponents than play average against exceptional opponents. At least they showed the ability that in these past 4 weeks, they can make life pretty hectic for a quarterback. And this past Sunday's game where the Dallas Cowboys got sacked 5 times with their elite offensive line, it just goes to show that the Kansas City Chiefs defensively have been able to step up in absence of an incredible offense. And just statistically, over this entire season, the Chiefs have done exactly what they need to do to be considered a complementary defense for their offense. They've taken the ball away from the opposing offense 15 times, which right now ranks them 13th in the NFL. Their points allowed is also at 15th in the entire league. Yes, those numbers are not incredible, but like I said, I'd rather have them be above average and play well throughout an entire season than be below average and play well maybe just a few times a season. Right now, they're showing that they can consistently take the ball away from the opposing quarterback, and they can keep points off the board. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the Chiefs do hold on to the ball for the longest time in the NFL per drive. But it also goes to show that they are able to keep points off the board when they need to. And there really is no reason to say that this defense is bad at all. The one thing I will say that this season the Kansas City Chiefs have not been able to do defensively, and the one thing that might hold them back from a three-peat AFC championship, is their sack numbers and just their, in general, ability to affect the quarterback. Right now, they're one of the worst teams when it comes to their sack numbers. I don't know what their QB hits and QB pressures look like, but I would assume that that's pretty low as well. One of their best pass rushers is Tyrann Mathieu, and I do hold that against the Kansas City Chiefs because I don't think that if one of your best pass rushers is a defensive back, that's not a necessarily great system. Just ask Jamal Adams and the Seattle Seahawks, who have one of the worst defenses in the NFL right now. Kansas City defensively does not have a very incredible way to affect the other team's offense when it comes to the passing game. They don't have an incredible corner. They don't have, I wouldn't necessarily say Tyrann Mathieu is a safety. He's a hybrid safety linebacker at this point in his career. He plays closer to the linebacker level than he really does the safety level. That's just not something that can really be argued at this point in Tyrann Mathieu's career. He makes up for the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs don't have a linebacker. I understand that Willie Gay plays. I understand that Nick Niemann plays. I understand that some guys play linebacker for this Kansas City Chiefs team. But Tyrann Mathieu makes up for the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs do not have a stud linebacker. He makes up for the fact that they do not have a stud pass rusher outside of Chris Jones here and there. And I will say, the whole experiment of Chris Jones at defensive end was one of the worst experiments that we've seen in the NFL this year. And it is a good sign that they move him back to defensive tackle, and he has the best game of his season, one of the best games in his career, bringing Dak Prescott down to the ground 3.5 times this past Sunday. At the end of the day, I think that a lot of people, whether it's in the NFL or people that cover the NFL, think that the Kansas City Chiefs have become figured out on the offensive side of the ball, and they have regressed from being one of the best teams in the AFC. And it doesn't help that teams like the Ravens, the Bills, the Bengals, the Patriots, almost every single team in the AFC has taken major strides in terms of their own progression. There's no real team in the AFC outside of the Dolphins, outside of the Jaguars, outside of the Texans. Nobody is a scrub in the NFL on that AFC conference. And it's making it a little bit harder for the Kansas City Chiefs to stand out, and that's understandable. But make no mistakes, they have the best quarterback in the world right now in Patrick Mahomes. I understand the stats don't look great. I understand the interceptions don't look great. But he is still the number one quarterback in the world. He's second in yards. He's third in touchdowns. Like, he's just an incredible quarterback, and he is the best in the world. There's nothing you can tell me that will change my stance on that. And they have the best skill group in the entire NFL as well. Kelsey is the best tight end in the world. Tyreek Hill is a top 5 wide receiver. There are other wide receivers like, Mecole Hardman. Josh Gordon is on this team. Byron Pringle. Guys who, they don't have incredible names around the NFL right now, but when it's championship time for the Kansas City Chiefs, those guys step up. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is looking like, the first-round running back that we thought he could blossom into a great player in this Kansas City Chiefs offense. We're seeing him do that right now. And with this bye week that they get this week, they have a chance to, like I said, probably look at how to attack cover 2 offense or cover 2 defense and get prepared for a somewhat tough schedule that they have for the rest of the season. And honestly, don't be surprised if after their last 6 games that they have this year, they end up having the best record in their conference and are once again holding up the AFC Championship on Arrowhead Field in January.